Tomorrow they call you and they say like, hey, listen, I need you to close shop and we'll pay you $2 million, right? But you cannot be part of the automotive industry anymore, right? This is the NDA. We don't want you guys here. Here's your $2 million, right? Close shop. Are you guys doing that?
I would consider it.
Welcome to Untitled Success, the podcast where we go behind the scenes with local business owners to uncover their journeys. My name is Timothy Taufilis. I'm here with Iman and Danny with Gear Up Tires. Let's dive in. Thank you guys for being here with us.
Hi.
My very first question that I love to ask everyone is like, who were you guys in high school? Were you guys like the quiet ones? Were you guys the troublemakers?
Go ahead.
So in high school, I feel like my personality kind of was like in sync to who I am now. I was involved in every single thing, every single club, every single team. I did like multiple sports. I was in drama. I was in choir.
Damn.
I was a senior secretary. Like I did everything. So I was just
Okay.
like super busybody. I got a job as early as I could get a job. I was also working, and then I did pretty good at school as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seems like you should have been a politician at that point.
Oh God, I actually considered it. I first applied into college as a poli-sci major, and after like just a couple months, I was like, I gotta get out of here.
This is not for me.
Yeah.
I was a troublemaker. Barely squeezed by in school. I didn't care for school. I didn't care about anything really that my parents wanted me to care about.
Yeah.
I mean, I was involved in school a little bit, in ABS and that kind of stuff, but like, I didn't care about school. I wanted to have fun, hang out with friends. That was the goal. And as long as I graduated, like that was also the goal.
Okay.
But it wasn't to do well in school. I didn't care about it. I was pretty rebellious. And I would say that's quite opposite of who I am now.
Would you say you were more rebellious in a sense of like every teenage boy is rebellious, right? Would you say you were more than that? Oh,
I mean,
Some pretty sketchy things.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of questionable times, a lot of questionable things that I did.
yeah.
But I mean, I kind of went from one extreme to the other.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of my parents' values and things that I taught were, right and wrong, brought up. I kind of ended up following more of that moral compass.
Mm-hmm. Later on.
As in like my mid-20s and beyond.
Okay.
But before that, it was just pretty chaotic.
Oh. So when you guys first met, you guys obviously were working like your 9-to-5 jobs, I would assume.
When we met?
No, I was a freshman in college, and Danny wasn't going to school. We actually worked at a pizza place together.
Oh.
Yeah.
Good pizza?
The pizza was good.
I mean, I liked the pizza.
Okay.
It
so
wasn't
you
like a
guys,
Domino's. It was
you
like
guys-
a gourmet pizza place.
this is in like Orange County or?
No, so we lived in San Luis Obispo. I lived in San Luis Obispo. He lived in Atascadero.
Okay.
So Central Coast. And I was commuting to Atascadero from San Luis Obispo, where I was going to college at Cal Poly. And then, Danny was one of the pizza delivery drivers. And I was the girl who answered the phones and took the orders. And
So, and then you guys met, you guys started going out, right?
Yeah.
And then, but you guys ended up leaving the pizza spot at some point.
Mm-hmm.
You always went into the automotive industry and you always did your own thing, or?
Yeah, so I was going to school for poli-sci, and then I switched my major and ended up doing journalism, where I thought I would be a news anchor one day. That was like my big goal. And then obviously after graduating and getting my degree, I kind of navigated away from that, went more into like the marketing side.
Mm-hmm.
Danny's been working on cars, I don't know.
Since I was like 17.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But not professionally. Professionally since I was like 20.
20?
Yeah, actually, right. Really when we met.
Mm-hmm.
Did you work for someone or did you open up your own spot immediately?
So I worked for a guy who's been in the industry for like 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first automotive job.
Wow.
Yeah, and I like working with my hands and understanding how things work. It intrigues me how cars function,
Yeah.
how they came up with all this.
So when did you decide to leave your like 9-to-5 and start your own?
Oh, that was pretty recently, actually, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
So this is relatively new in respects to like overall your entire life. This is probably one of the newer chapters in your life.
Yeah, sure. I've always wanted to own my own business, but like it never came to fruition, you know?
Oh, wow.
Like until kind of recently.
So would you say that person that you worked for, was that like your mentor throughout your life? Is that the person who kind of taught you automotive industry as well as like what does it mean to work for cars, or was there other mentors in your life?
I would say he was my main mentor, but over the years I've learned and through experience that like, you know, times have changed and he figured out how to run a business the way he felt fit, but he didn't have the same goals that I do. And so I can't really follow his footsteps beyond the basics.
Okay.
Which is a good customer service, essentially. Really being thorough with, like, that's something he taught me about work. Yeah, you have to be thorough. Don't let things be a guessing game.
Yeah.
You know, so like those types of things. But as far as like how to grow the business, how to run the business, I would say that he was pretty stagnant. And I don't think he could have grown to, you know, 3-4 shops or grown to something a lot bigger. He had kind of an old style of a mindset. Well, I mean, he's 70 now.
Yeah.
So,
but he was happy with kind of.
But he was just happy with that.
Yeah.
And that's totally fine. It's just, I realized like I was trying to do everything the way he did it before.
But you guys have two different
and
mindsets.
I realized that like, wow, like I can't do this or I'm going to end up like him, and I don't want to end up like him.
Yeah,
he's a success in his own eyes.
Right.
That's nowhere near what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Or where I'm trying to go.
So this business that you guys started, you guys literally started together. Right?
Yeah.
And so how did this come to be?
So it was during COVID. We had a lot of time on our hands. We'd actually like talked about it, I think, for like maybe like a year back and forth before we even like decided to take the first step. Danny was feeling really fed up with his job, and I was actually at a job that I really enjoyed. So I was like, I want to hang on for just a little bit longer. What was that job? I was working for a real estate tech company, and I was doing their marketing.
Okay.
And then COVID happened, and I got laid off. And, you know, if you've ever been laid off before or lost a job before, I think your immediate reaction is like, holy shit, I need a job. I got bills, you know? Yeah. So I'm like immediately like applying to as many things as I can. I know like the job market is a struggle, and especially like in my industry, like it's quite competitive. So, you know, frantically applying, and as I'm applying for things, I'm like, ugh, like just thinking about like the whole interview process, the whole training process, all that stuff, working for someone else's dream. And I was like, this sucks. Like, I don't want to do this again. And Danny was still feeling fed up. And then I had time on my hands. It was COVID. It's not like I was being social and doing things, you know? So I was like, let me just start like putting together what it would look like for us to like start our own business. Like, what did the licenses look like? What does like getting the money look like? What is all that stuff? And then as we got more into it, we were like, we're both feeling ready. Let's just like, what are we waiting for at this point? Like another opportunity like this is probably not going to present itself again. So yeah, we just, you know, started filling out the paperwork and shifting around the money, and we went for it. And
what is something that no one tells you about when first opening up your business? Like what's something that you guys had to tackle on? You're like, oh shit, I did not know.
Oh, the freaking paperwork stuff. Like there's no book or pamphlet that gives you, that guides you through step 1 through step, you know, the final step. It's like, it's so industry specific. Like finding the place was like a freaking challenge of its own, you know, like having a place that actually permits the type of work that we do. Yeah, that was just like a hardcore struggle. But yeah, I think just like all the stuff that goes on the back end, like no one really tells you. I would also say something I've learned recently is like we've spent a lot of time in those early days working on the business plan. And, you know, this is something like you just pick up like online, like you can find a template and then you just kind of piece it through based on like your vision. And at the end of the day, like you don't have to wait for the business plan to be complete or perfect for you to start your business, because you don't actually know like the direction your business is going to take. I think we spend too much time trying to figure out the numbers based on Danny's experience in the industry, figuring how much we were going to make the first quarter, how much we were going to make the second quarter, what we needed to like, what our profits needed to look like. And it was nothing like that at all. It's like focusing on those numbers didn't.
Let's kind of get into that part because I'm always interested and intrigued about that part. Number one, you guys are entering a space where a lot of people don't like automotives, like for rent, and as looking at like people like to go rent places. They're very turned off about automotive.
Terrible stereotype, absolutely.
So how did you guys find a spot first?
Well, it was already zoned for it. We pretty much got into a place that already had automotive all the way around. Like there's 8 or 9 businesses in our facility.
But if you started today, right?
Yeah.
Are you guys going to LoopNet, for example, and looking up leases?
It's actually funny. So like, yeah, we did look through LoopNet. There's like another one I think called like City Fleet or Citywire. I don't know. There's like a few of them. But actually where we found this place was Craigslist. And
okay.
I know Craigslist gets a bad name. I've actually found jobs on there too. There's like random like things that are just really like, you just get lucky. But we didn't even know if it was real. Like the owner, like once we met him, it made sense. But like just the way he communicates, like we had no idea if this was going to be like some sort of trick or what. But we show up, I think he was like late or something. And we were like, oh man, this is fake for sure. And then we meet him and just like seeing like his demeanor with the way he communicated with us, like it made like perfect sense. But yeah, I mean, I think we got lucky finding the first place. I think definitely we're getting to a place right now where we may have outgrown it. But just in terms of like the difficulty of finding location, like just glad I decided to look up Craigslist, you know, so random. But
so you guys find this place, right? One of the things I worry about when I talk to people of business owners is that you kind of go through the emotion of like, oh, how much are we going to make? But that, when I talk to a bunch of business owners, that is the first mistake you can do is think
absolutely,
right? And then the second part is like, okay, how can I survive and just break even?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So what does that look like for you guys?
Oh my God.
When you guys first open?
We both came from places where we were making like okay money, you know? Danny definitely for sure, and me too. Like we were living really comfortably. And then we were like going into we were like,
let me mess it all up.
All of it. That's all of it.
We'll take a pay cut. We'll take pay cut.
Just a little pay cut. That was at first.
But like we'll still be good. We'll still be comfortable. And this is based on the numbers that we put into the business plan, which is, you know, literally we're making it up out of nothing. It didn't last very long that way.
No.
The bank account just kept dipping and dipping.
Yeah. So I got rid of my Lexus, bought a 97 T100.
Oh, okay.
Like, I mean, so it's we were in survival mode. I'd say we're still in survival mode, but not like we were before.
Yeah.
Now it's a different,
yes,
very different look at
it. I feel like we've established the business where, like, for instance, right now we've got one employee that works every day part-time and 8 hours on Saturday, and I'm turning down work. But actually, to answer your previous question, for me, the biggest difficulty was keeping hope there, and really like continuing to be motivated to come into work and getting out of bed, even though it's so much slower than I thought it would be. Because I mean, I've been in this industry for, oh my gosh, like 15 years. Actually more now. I keep saying 15, but now it's anyway.
18.
Yeah,
15 plus.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. And so, but I've always been with businesses that have established themselves. So like seeing something built from scratch, like is a whole nother thing. So like that's something that nobody taught you. Like I figured, okay, you know, just advertise. Oh, just market. I mean, we were doing all that, but only so much happens. You have to build a reputation locally as well as online, and that happens only over time. There's only so much papers you can pass out. There's only so many doors you can knock on.
Yeah.
Like
there were days I'm trying to think of like how slow it was. Like there were days we didn't get a single job, right?
Yeah, there were days.
Just sit
Not
around
a single one.
twiddling our thumbs, and then days we get some like a flat repair. Where you're like, you make no money. Oh,
actually, you lose money
on a flat repair. Yeah.
It was rough. It was really rough.
So let's kind of look at those dark moments, right? So you opened during COVID, which in itself is something that you have to tackle.
dicey.
Yeah, it's a little dicey.
Yeah.
I'm always astonished by the people that opened their business during COVID, because most people are like twiddling their thumbs. They're like, we'll just wait till something happens.
Yeah.
Some of them made a lot of money during COVID, right? A lot of other people were just kind of like, okay, let's open up a business. And you're like, well, not only do you not know what's going on, but you're opening up on a time where you genuinely not only don't know what's going on, but don't know what the future holds within the next 24 months. Yeah. Right? So when you guys made the decision to open, right, walk me through like how those dark times, like what happened during those days. Like there are times where people didn't come in, right? How did you guys build credibility amongst the people around you? I mean, I know your credibility personally, because I think you're very good at what you do.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I will say, like, we kind of had like a insider view. Like, yes, opening during COVID is a risk in itself, of course. Like you said, like we had no idea what the future was going to look like. That was, the first time we experienced something in that, gravity. And but Danny had like just come from the automotive industry, and they were booming. Like, I know, like, it was tough times, but for some reason, like, if you look at the stats, like, people were spending money on their cars. And I'm not talking, like, maintenance items. Like, what were they doing?
Lifts, upgrades.
Wrapping,
like,
lifts,
unnecessary
upgrades.
things.
Yeah, and I think it was because they were sitting at home looking at their car and being like, you know what? And then going online and being like, what kind of lift would look good on this? What kind of wheels would look good on this? Let's get it done.
Yeah.
Oh, we're sitting here anyway. I mean,
yeah,
the government gave us $1,000 or whatever it was back when. So I think they spent a lot of that money
okay,
looking at their car in the garage or in the driveway and being like, like start dreaming a little bit.
Yeah.
But
so we definitely went into it not as scared of the risk of COVID because of that. But then also, on the other end of that is like, that kind of made us think that like, oh, well, like the industry is booming. So like starting at this time means like, we're going to be great from the beginning, and definitely was not like that.
The problem is you need the credibility for people to realize,
how did
and
you
come
build
to
that
you.
credibility?
Well, I mean, I think it just slowly happened over time, doing good work and being honest. Unfortunately, that means not very much money is made.
Yeah.
I give so much stuff away. Like, I mean, if I make a mistake, I mean, I make up for it in any way that I can. And unfortunately, that means giving parts away for free sometimes, doing extra free stuff for them, just making it right in general. But, I mean, sometimes that means doing the job 2 or 3 times to make it right, to get it exactly the way that it should be done.
Well, let's also clarify, Danny's very meticulous.
Yeah.
Very, very meticulous when it comes to I don't know about anything else about his life, but when it comes to automotive, Danny's very meticulous.
I try to be. It's fun.
Yeah. What is one early mistake that you guys made that turned to be a valuable lesson for you moving forward?
Oh my gosh, opening the business I thought was a mistake at many points in this in this venture, but then you realize, like, you know what, like, you have to stay positive. And that's the whole thing that I was talking about before. It's like nobody taught you to be so resilient in your mindset. Like, I didn't realize that I would have to be this resilient.
I think like at the beginning, we were so eager for anything that came our way. We were taking everything and anything. And not only that, we were like working way beyond the hours we should have. Like, it became like our whole life. Like, if a Yelp message came in, it was like, oh, we needed a response to it within 30 minutes. We were like obsessed with the timer that like Yelp puts on responding back. Like, there's like this business responds in 2 hours or whatever. Like, we were obsessed with keeping it under 30 minutes. And I think like, because we weren't doing as well as we thought we would be doing, and then also working and putting in that many hours every day, it felt like way harder than like it needed to be. It was like, that was our entire life and it wasn't going well.
Well, since you mentioned that right now, was there any time where you guys were like, hey, you know what? This is just way too much. I think it's easier if we just close shop. I'll go back to marketing. You go back to automotive, and like, we'll live a simpler life.
I definitely thought it. I didn't verbalize it.
I feel like I may have thought it too for like a second, but it was never like serious, like, okay, well, what does this actually look like? Like selling our equipment, like it never went that far.
I think a lot of business people that I interview, they have a lot of self-doubt, especially within the first 24 months.
And that's what I'm saying. Like the amount, like I constantly had to be positive and talk to myself positively about like, okay, you know what? Like we're in control of all this.
Yeah.
Like, oh, something's not going right. Like, let's change it.
Yeah.
Oh, like we're not getting enough business. Okay. Like let's take extra steps in order to ensure that we have return customers. So I'm like washing windows before the customer leaves, wiping down mirrors, you know, like just doing like extra stuff like, hey, I saw you had low windshield washer fluid, even though we did your brakes, nothing to do with it because the dash light came on. So I'd fill their washer fluid up.
Yeah.
Like just doing tiny things like that, like what other shop is going to do that?
There was also a time that I don't know like how far or after we opened, but where we realized that the bank account is depleting and it wasn't realistic for us to continue on like getting paid the amount that we were both paying. And like I think what made it more challenging was like it was both of our incomes, you know, like it wasn't like a lot of people start a business like by themselves and it's like, okay, you can figure out one person. If you're in a, you know, serious relationship, at least the other person is making some stable source of income, you know, but it was both of us. So like if the business wasn't doing well, we would have no money coming in, you know? So we maybe I made the decision, you supported it. I don't remember like exactly how it came to be, but I was like, okay, I'm going to look to get back into the industry and find a part-time job and at least have like some sort of income coming in. That way I can lean off the business's bank account. And then eventually that became more. And then I actually stopped paying myself from the business. And then we were able to pay Danny a little bit more. And then I was able to make money elsewhere.
So it was like an anchor for you guys to hold on until you guys started taking off.
Yeah.
How do you guys look like now compared to the first 24 months?
I feel like we're getting close to a place where like I could pay myself from the business as well. But I think because we both have like big goals in terms of like the growth we want for the business and I'm okay making money elsewhere, I'll probably continue to work elsewhere and do this also. And then hire on more people and like trying to kickstart the business more that way.
So eventually you guys want to end up having more than one store. What it sounds like.
I think like, yeah, that's a part of it, but also like we want to be more than just like a place where people come and get their work done.
Okay.
We kind of have like a couple different ideas for how this would go about. I'm happy to share if we want to get into that a little bit later, but yeah, we definitely want to grow.
How do you guys handle pressure? Like if we're talking about your bank account going, I would probably say near zero, if not below zero. Cause Again, my parents had a business, so when I see these things happening, I'm just like, how does this work, right?
Yeah.
So one of the biggest pressures I would say is that when there's no money in the account, it's a pretty big pressure.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to deal with customers. It makes it definitely more difficult to deal with customers.
Okay.
Because then there's more pressure to sell something, and I have to remember it's not about the money, although it is, but it's not. You know, it's like that whole, I don't know, argument between myself. But like, you know what, like if they come back, that's going to make us a lot more money in the long run.
Okay.
You know, if the customer leaves happy, like it's not just about this sale. I know I have to make a sale, but like it needs to be on things they absolutely need and let them make the decision about all of the other things.
We didn't want to like fall into that stereotype that you were talking about, you know?
That's part of the reason why I got in.
We definitely didn't want to be everyone else, you know? Like the place like where that I experienced, you know, you take your car in for one thing and they still give you that whole list of other things that you need, you know, but like no one explains the importance or like how much more time you have, because at the end of the day, they just care about, you know, getting the most profit out of you. So yeah, I think like definitely having to like be self-aware of like, you know, our desperation, but like, you know, they're humans too. Like they don't, you know, we want the best for them.
For the desperation. You guys are in business together.
Yeah.
And there's tough times. And you guys are married.
Yeah, that was difficult.
So how was that? Were there issues in your marriage during these times?
I think there still is. Just much less. We've learned to cope with them. We've learned to like...
I would say the biggest thing was like there was a lot of friction between us. Like, yes, we were both stressed. It's a stressful situation to be in. But we were stepping on each other's toes a lot. And I think because we were like, okay, this is like both of our business, you know, we thought like we needed to work hand in hand in every single thing. So I think like being able to like identify, this is your strength.
Yeah.
I'll
You
listen.
handle it.
I'll, you know, I can give you an opinion, but like at the end of the day, you're the boss of that.
Okay.
You know, and then maybe like these are my strengths, you know, like I will listen to your opinion, but like I don't have to necessarily take it every single time because like I know better about this specific part of the business.
I mean, without getting into too much detail, but can you guys give an example where you guys are like stepping on each other's toes and then you're like, wait a second, we need to create boundaries here so that way we can thrive? There's always, I can think of one annoying thing that my wife does, right? So I'm sure there's at least one thing that you guys are like, oh yeah, this was a problem and we had to fix it this way.
Yeah. Can you think of anything off the top of your head?
Not specifically. I know I've felt that way many times. Like that was a regular feeling
I think
before.
I was frustrated with like the kind of jobs we were taking in. Like at the beginning, we initially hired this guy off the bat. He was amazing. But he had a lot of experience with like the engine side of the automotive industry. And that's not necessarily Danny's strong suit. So Danny would still take in jobs and trust that this guy had them covered. Like, yeah, he would be there to support and help him. But like at the end of the day, Danny doesn't just have experience with that part of the vehicle as much as this other guy does. And so when any like mistake would happen, I would be frustrated that like this basically like we're working on stuff we don't know that much about. And I was like afraid of like how that would affect our reputation, you know, but like I don't know the automotive industry like Danny does, you know, like I don't know issues like Danny does. So like I think I had to like pull back and be like, okay, like if you think it's a good idea for us to take that job, then we take that job. But if you don't think it's a good idea, hopefully you have like the strength to say no.
Even though you might have thought it was not a good idea to take that job.
Yeah.
But because Danny knew
like
the
he was
automotive,
at the end, he was
like,
going to be the one to handle it, you know? Like he was the one who was going to have to figure out a solution, not me. You know, he was the one who's going to have to explain to the customer, not me. So it's like I get stressed out about it, but at the end, like I can't control this thing. So yeah, I think.
What about you? What's something that you couldn't? You're like, listen, I don't want to be in control of this. This is yours. I will trust you in whatever you do in regards to that.
I would say the administration side.
Or the money business side, I feel like too.
I wouldn't mind taking control of that. but I would say like the tax stuff and like the insurance, the licenses, like she handles all of that. And although I would be forced to do that and would be, I don't know if I'd say happy to do it, but I would be forced to do it. And I'm sure I'd figure it out. She's definitely more capable of understanding languages and learning new things. And I think that's where like her college experience came in and her journalism and all that kind of stuff. As far as like, I don't know, researching and figuring things out on the book end.
Gotcha.
I think I would just hire somebody on to do that. If she wasn't here, I think I would just hire somebody. Yeah. Like, look, figure this out. This is not my strong suit.
Does work ever follow you home in a bad way?
Sure. Yeah. I can't figure things out. I would say maybe once every couple months, like where it's just like, oh my gosh, like I'll lose sleep over not being able to figure something out. I mean, it's my job to figure things out. And it's not like it's something that I don't do. It's something in our wheelhouse, something that we specialize in, and I can't figure this out. Like I lose sleep over it. So that's stressful. And unfortunately that means that I don't treat her very good sometimes. When I come home stressed out, I'm feeling down on myself. Like I'm, couldn't figure out a solution to a problem that we specialize in. Like what the hell, Yeah. And so I'd work on it for a few days sometimes. Luckily, the customers are so understanding. I haven't had a bad customer yet. But like, oh man, that's stressful. And they need their car back.
Yeah.
And that's like something no one tells you about when you're starting a business by yourself. Like you don't really have anyone to bounce ideas off of, Like thankfully, Danny has made, friends with like other people that work in other shops and stuff. So
I'll get a second
he
opinion
gets some,
sometimes.
assistance in that regards, but he has to figure it out, like I can't help. Like I'll talk through it with him and maybe, something will come, like he'll figure it out just by talking to me sometimes, but can't really assist with that.
Yeah. That's definitely a hurdle that I've had to overcome is that also people don't tell you is you don't realize how much pressure is on you because it's your full responsibility to figure out the solution to any problem as the business owner. Because if you don't have a general manager that's there, you are everything.
Yeah. I always find it interesting that when you're working a 9 to 5, you're waking up at 7:30, 8:30, whatever the time is being, right? Doesn't matter if you're really sick, doesn't matter if things are going around in your life. You have a set time and you wake up at that time and you go to work. And then when you open up your own business or trying to start your own thing, you're like, you become a little bit more procrastinating on the matter, right? You're like, okay, I can come in at 10 o'clock, I can do this, I can do that, right? And it's like, oh wait, I don't have anyone to answer to. So I don't have, like you said, a general manager that I can be like, I have this problem.
Fix it, please.
Fix it, please. Right? It's, oh man, this is like one, either my reputation or number two, like one of the other guys mentions it. He feels like he has imposter syndrome, right? Like someone is a better mechanic than I am. I'm afraid that they might go there, right?
Sure.
Rather than just like, oh, okay, sticking in your bubble. So I always find that let's call it psychology of how that mind works from a 9 to 5 versus owning your own business and how that mind works, right? So if you were to do this again from in 2020 and you're sitting with your guys' selves, what's that 2-minute pep talk that you're going to give yourself?
Everything will come together. Stop stressing.
You
do
know
what
what's
you
crazy?
do. Do what you do.
If you would have told yourself that in 2020, you would have been like, shut the hell up, bro.
You are wrong.
You are wrong. You are absolutely wrong.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Stop stressing out. Everything will work out. Be positive.
Okay.
Be positive. Don't get down on yourself. Like, do what you do. Everything will work out.
And I definitely think like the biggest strength of our business is like our mentality and who we are as people. Like, I think that the customers that really appreciate us, like they have so much time, like getting to know Danny. Like he very thoroughly like will explain everything to them and they'll get to know who he is like as a human being and like his kind heart, and that positive energy, like people pick up on that, like people want to surround themselves around that same positive energy. So like, I'm glad that like, yeah, we had those dark times, but like that positivity was like able to come out. And I think that's like what people really appreciate about us.
But what's that 2-minute pep talk that you would give yourself? He has his own pep talk, but what does that pep talk look for you?
Oh man, trying to think. I think like the biggest thing that I struggled with was like patience. I mean, it kind of relates to Danny's like pep talk, but like I wanted everything to like happen overnight, and like you kind of think that it does happen overnight. Like there are those like very rare success stories where like someone decides to start this business and like they're booming, And I think for me, it was like, just like telling myself like, good things take time. Like it's going to be hard, but like, you got to give it some time and, things can be exactly how you want them, just as long as you keep putting in the work.
I would say right now in your guys' business, you guys are thriving, right?
I'm glad it looks like that.
Is that like respectfully, if you guys stopped what you guys are doing and just focused on this shop and you're like, and you had that same mentality as that shop owner before, I think you guys are thriving. Is that a fair statement to say?
I would say.
Yeah, I say
So
we're pretty comfortable.
what does that mind shift look like? So I don't know if you guys can pinpoint, but can you point out when you guys went from striving to thriving or surviving to thriving?
My definition of thriving is much different than where we currently are.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that we're still not there. We've definitely made some large strides.
Yeah.
As far as like for me, my stress levels have definitely gone down comparatively to before.
Okay.
So in that sense, I'm thriving. But as far as business wise, I feel like I've got a long way to go before I define us as thriving. Like a long way to go.
Okay.
But I mean, that's that different mindset. Like, so for instance, the other shop owner that I worked for, he would say, yeah, we're thriving now. We're an established business that we're turning down work now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just me working alone. Because I feel like that you can top out easily if you're working alone.
I'm always interested to see what that mind shift is, though, because like right now, if you guys decided to stop and this is your only shop and not have that game plan that you guys, what we'll talk a little bit later on, if you guys didn't have that game plan, you guys are
we're okay.
we're
we're
okay.
doing all right.
The mortgages are paid for, the business is paid for. I can travel, I can do things, right? I am doing just fine. Whereas before, it's like we can't go. We have to pay the mortgage. I don't know how we're going to pay the business. So what is that like? There's always a small shift.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of like, when did that happen?
I would say about 3 years in, for me, that the stress and anxiety really was reduced because I kind of accepted, you know what, like this is where we are. Growth is going to happen kind of as fast as it's going to happen. Sure, things are in my control, but like, or in our control. It's just, it's not what I pictured. And I think once I realized that I can't control things 100%, like things are going to kind of happen on their own time without doing shady things or without doing like these different types of things. It's just going to kind of happen on its own. I need to do my thing, be honest, do the best work that I possibly can, go the extra mile.
I actually remember what it is for me, and maybe this will spark it for you. So on the software that we use, there's like a calendar view, and you can, when you schedule people, you're able to see like what the calendar looks like. I remember this was still when Sean was working for us. There was like a consistent, like at least 2 weeks where like the calendar was like full, like 2 weeks booked out full. And, that happened. And we were like, oh my God, like this is the shift. Like this is it. Like people are actually like wanting to be at our business. And then we did that and it died for like a second. Like we still had business, but it wasn't like booked out for 2 weeks. And then it happened again, maybe, I don't know, a few months later. And then at some point it was just like, it's just been consistently booked out. So I think like when that first like calendar fill up happened, I was like, okay, we're going to be okay. Like this is a turning.
Yeah.
So, and then like you said, the stress level, the anxiety kind of like depletes just a little bit,
like
right?
People had told us, like we've actually know a good amount of people who've started their own businesses, and like people say like 2 years, like give it 2 years. Like the first 2 years, you're like, you're just struggling. And I don't know if this was 2 year mark or when it was specifically, but it definitely felt like, things were gonna turn around for us at that moment.
Were you guys always okay with like, okay, you start the business, were you okay with losing 100,000 in the first 2 years? 200,000, 300,000,
okay,
500,000?
Okay with no.
What I mean is
we
like,
understood it was part of it.
Yes, that's part of the risk. That is definitely a possibility that I took. Yes, as a possibility.
I think that first 100,000, like,
gone. It's gone within.
That went by so quick.
I think that's the misconception, right? Like, I've watched this in my own personal life with my parents, but when they're opening up, for us was a restaurant, and they're like, I got $250 in the bank. I'm good for a while.
Yeah, no, man.
Not at all. Not at all.
A couple years,
Right.
I guess it depends on the industry. I don't know the restaurant industry, but I'm assuming.
You end up finding yourself not only below that, but almost double the other side of that, right?
Could be, yeah.
So at what point where you guys were like, okay, we're okay with, not okay, but okay with losing 500 before we really have to be like, hey, this is not working out. We got to figure this out like a different way, or.
Yeah.
I'd say after the first 100.
I think, the first 100 we were like, whoa.
Yep.
That was blink of an eye. This is not sustainable. We got to shift some things around. Okay. And then we were like, okay, what expenses can we get rid of? What expenses can we reduce? And then
that's when survival mode really kicked in. Like after the first 100,000, it's like, now deep breaths every day 4 times.
Yeah. Tighten up the belt. Like, listen, we don't need this. So we're not going to buy this. So it's strictly only business for X amount of.
Being very frugal.
Yeah.
So when we talk about your business now, right, and we look forward towards the next 5 years, what does that look like for you guys? What is your vision for Gear Up Tires?
before it was opening up multiple shops.
Okay.
And since then, our vision has kind of changed a little bit. She came up with an idea of being more hands-on and schooling people, in a sense, teaching people how to do it, like that want to learn how to do it, and then charging them essentially for school. So like opening up a shop or enlarging our shop to have, like, let's say we start out with 2 bays that can be rented out. We charge, not real numbers, but like, let's say $80 or $100 an hour for them to do their own stuff. You know, provide all the tools. Like, I've kind of already thought about it a little bit, but like, if most people don't have all the necessary tools to work on their stuff, they have tools to get by.
Yes.
But when having the professional tools to do so, man, the job gets cut down oftentimes by 50%, having the right tools. So it's like, oh my gosh, they could do a brake job in, 45 minutes.
Okay.
When a shop would normally charge them $220 at a lower or middle end shop. At a dealership, it charges $400 to $800 just for labor. And they can do it now themselves with all the proper tools because they want to learn and they have somebody overseeing them.
Yeah, not even like so much like the reducing cost part of it for the consumer, but I think that
like learning.
We've found that there's like this like really like awesome niche of people who, like Danny, love being hands-on, and they're so passionate about their vehicles that they want to be the ones to do the work. So like we get these people all the time where like they worked on it at home and they got stuck on something, or they worked on their suspension and couldn't do the alignment because there's no way to do it without an alignment machine. And then they bring their vehicles to us. And like, yeah, they hand it off to us, they trust us, whatever. But like at the end of the day, they would have really loved and taken pride in saying that like, I worked on my car myself. And so like giving them the opportunity to do that. And it would be something, I mean, the insurance would be something chaotic, I'm sure, but like
you could sign waivers
to figure out like the rents, of like extending a couple bays, and basically these people are paying that part, and like not only that, like right now, like I think a lot of these people who work on their vehicles themselves, like they're on forums, they're like watching YouTube videos, and with vehicles, especially like actually all vehicles, like everything is so specific to like that vehicle, the submodel of the vehicle. So it's really hard to find like a very specific like YouTube video form that guides you through like whatever, that specific lift you want to install on your vehicle is, So yes, renting out the bays so that they could do the work themselves, renting out the tools so they could do the work themselves, but then also like an additional part where like they can hire us to be like a consultant. So like Danny could sit in with them and be like, okay, this is what you need to do, and like kind of be like this, like the professional who like is telling them specifically for their car, this is what you need to do, instead of them searching for hours on YouTube videos for things that maybe apply, maybe don't apply to their vehicle, and then that's like an additional way to make money as well.
So if I'm closing my eyes and I'm picturing this in 5 years, right? I'm seeing Danny doing his jobs, hiring maybe a few more people to do other jobs, and these other niche people coming to rent out the spot, right? The extra bay to say, hey, I need to do my brakes. I don't really have these tools. It's going to be a 3-hour job, 4-hour job, whatever the case may be. We're going to rent it out.
Pay per hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then part of that, in addition to that, it's like, hey, you want to,
There's always something.
Okay.
Like that happens. I would say, I shouldn't say always, but even as a professional, I would say at least 50% of the time I run into problems that were unseen.
Yeah.
Like unforeseen problems.
But because he's been in the industry so long, he's able to navigate and get through those problems a lot faster. But for them, who, they work a different 9-to-5 job. This is not something they see day in and day out. They may get stuck for who knows
2
how
days.
long.
2 days, yeah.
And that's when they tap Danny in, and Danny wanders over there, and he's like, "Oh, I got you.
I've already done this 3 times."
Yeah.
I will say my experience with Danny has been amazing in a sense of like, I think I was coming in for brakes, right? And he's like, hey, something sounds weird, right?
That was the bearing.
Yeah, right. And he has this, Danny looked like a doctor at this point. Like he had his like stethoscope in, and he's like listening to my car, and like he's walking through this process, right? He's giving me a thorough explanation. Do I need that explanation? Probably not. But like knowing that he's giving it to me, I'm like, okay, he understands exactly what needs to be done.
Builds your confidence in
Yes. And that to me built that credibility. So that consulting I can see, because it's like, hey, like, let me show you what you guys are doing wrong, right? Now, the only problem I see, Danny's so in love with automotive that if he spends, instead of 30 minutes, he could probably spend an hour and a half.
Yeah, he's going to need to figure out.
I'm very aware of this problem. I'm trying to be more conscious about how long I spend with customers, explaining things and going through things and answering not all of their questions, but just the important ones. Because there's been times where I'm like, oh my gosh, I've spent 45 minutes with this customer not making a dime just because they had all these questions. So I need to really hone and focus in on like, okay, what are your problems that are actually involved specifically with this issue? And it's probably going to be 3 or 4 of them.
I'm not here to solve your entire life.
Right. Because Danny's so knowledgeable at this.
And he loves teaching.
And
he loves.
And that's when time becomes an issue. Yeah.
Okay, so we have this 5-year goal. There's one kink to this 5-year goal, and that's electric cars, right?
To an extent, because they all still need tires, and they still all need brakes, and they still all need alignments, and suspension has not really changed.
Yeah, like kind of in our focus of the automotive industry, we're okay for a little bit.
Yeah, it's
like when things start flying and stuff, I don't know.
That's
maybe
a whole nother thing.
Yeah,
there's no tires. The suspension will be their landing gear, but that's it. I mean, but so as of right now, I'm not even concerned about the electrical industry.
2020, right? When you guys started, it's more gas. I would say more gas than electric. As we progress, there's more electric than well, not I don't want to say more electric than gas, but it's ramping up. Yeah, right? Sure. How do you think the automotive industry will look like in the next 20 years, and how do you guys think you guys can adjust from there?
It's so hard to say 20 years, because like
10 years.
Well, let's say even 20 years.
Okay.
I can go along with that. So
are we fine?
Yeah. So let's assume that cars
are
now
traveling through the mind, like at that point.
No, but like let's say we have flying cars.
Okay.
When new technology comes out, new programs come out for training for all these types of things. At that point in time, we'd have guys who are hired on who are supposed to be keeping up with all the stuff that comes out. You know what I mean? New training programs. Snap-on is now having, a training program for said flying vehicles, for the propellers or all that kind of stuff, for the suspension for those, or for, or that kind of stuff. I guess what I'm trying to say is adjustments will be made as needed, in my opinion. I'm not even concerned about it.
Like Danny said, he's not like the guy that he worked with for so long, because like he was like he wasn't keeping up with like the updates and stuff, you know? And like Danny, like he loves teaching. He's so passionate about the industry that he also loves learning. Like I would imagine that 20 years, whatever the changes are to the automotive industry are, Danny will, put in the time to like make sure he keeps up with it.
So you guys are different in regards to most mechanics are not adaptive.
I love learning about all the new things. That's part of the reason why I got into the industry. It intrigues me how they work.
Okay.
New stuff comes out. I'm like, oh, dude, look at these new brakes that came out. Like, look at how these work so much better.
Yeah, and she's like, hey, listen, I don't really care. As long as you know, we're good to go.
Yeah.
But because of that, I'm not even concerned about anything new that comes out. I feel like adapting is just part of the industry standard if you're going to stay alive. And if you're passionate about it, it's not a problem to adjust and adapt.
Okay. All right. On a little bit less serious note, right? I just have a couple fun questions about your business. All right. What has been the best moment between you guys during this process? Whether that's funny, heartwarming, what has been the best moment so far? Or just pure chaos?
I mean, I love equipment. So when all of the brand new equipment showed up, that was Christmas for me.
Okay.
Other than that, it's been kind of rough.
Wait, did you mean in terms of the business or between us?
Let's say in terms of the business first, and then because it kind of goes hand in hand, right?
Yeah. I don't know if I was as excited when the equipment came in.
Super
I was
excited. Look what came in. The aligner rack came in. I'm taking pictures. I have videos of it coming off of the truck.
This one thing cost this much? Oh, man.
Okay.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. Definitely different. I would say, like, when we first, like, were able to, like, be like, okay, like, the business is going to pay for this thing. Like, like, something that was, like, not related to the business, like a trip or I think we like did that like one staycation in like Palm Spring or Joshua Tree, and it was like, okay, we're gonna put this on the business, like stuff like that, like how the money was actually gonna play into our lives.
When the business started paying for itself.
Yeah.
And more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That was a big thing for me.
And then my other fun question I usually like to ask is, please don't be my first people to say this, okay?
Oh God.
Please do not be my first. Tomorrow Jiffy Lube calls you guys up today, or tomorrow they call you and they say like, hey, listen, I need you to close shop and we'll pay you $2 million, right? But you cannot be part of the automotive industry anymore, right? This is the NDA. We don't want you guys here. Here's your $2 million, right? Close shop. Are you guys doing that?
I would consider it.
You're like $2 million. A lot
So
of
now-
zeros
no.
after that too.
Now here's the thing: is like there's a lot of money to be made elsewhere, and this can just be a hobby for me.
Okay.
I don't have to be in the industry. It's what I'd love to do on the side too.
Okay.
That's where it started.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I believe that we can give a lot to the automotive industry by being in it, but I think that we can also give back being out of it as well. We don't have. I feel like I don't have to be in the industry. And I
Okay.
believe there's a lot of money to be made elsewhere. For instance, $2 million in real estate can take you real far.
Mm-hmm.
You know, split that up into 4 properties and put a down payment. I'm just saying, like, now my mind's going that way.
Okay.
So I would be open to it
Mm.
if she was not about this business anymore.
I think, like, I obviously don't share the same passion as Danny about the automotive industry, but, you know, I've found, like, little parts of it that, like, I appreciate. I think at the end of the day, like, $2 million, like Danny said, could go far somewhere else. And, you know, I think we have, like, a really good, like, team between us where, like, we could do something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
But I really want to make my imprints, you know? And I feel like the ideas that we have for the automotive industry could change it, you know? Like, I think, like, that stereotype that we talked about, like, it doesn't need to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
And if we could be the people to do that and that people know that we are the ones to do that, like, I feel like that would mean so much more to me than that $2 million. And I think we can make $2 million within this industry and more. So, yeah, I think I would have a hard time walking away from it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for coming today. I really appreciate it.
Right.
I'm sure like this is most people when they come, they're a little bit nervous at first, and then like once we start diving in, they kind of like a little bit more relaxed. So I appreciate you guys coming in and spending the time with me to talk about your business. Again, this for me is like when I spend time with business people, it's to help people that are like this 22-year-old who thinks, for example, working at a pizza shop and really good at his automotive skills is like, oh, Danny did it. Why can't I do it? Why can't I do it? Right? A lot of the stress and anxiety and the how much could I make derails people from starting their own business,
Yeah, of course.
right? And people need to understand it's just chaos for a while.
It is just, yeah,
Pure.
absolutely.
Pure chaos
Purest form.
for a while. So thank you guys for coming. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having
If
us.
people want to find you guys, like your social handle or where they can find your shop, can you let them know where they can find you?
Website is www.gearuptires.com, and our Instagram is gearuptires. So is our Facebook.
Thank you guys. Appreciate
Very
it.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you guys feel inspired and ready to take your next step in your next journey. Until next time, we are on the outro.